We're no estuary.
Scotty, we've got to interview a croc from the top end.
Sam Tibbits.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Sam Tibbits, how are you, mate?
Good, thank you. Very good.
Sam, mate, fair crowd here tonight.
Huge. And Stingrays.
Yeah, Stingray's always here. He's in charge of the car park and had a few cars to park tonight, I thought.
Yeah, no, they're lined up down the road, aren't they? Peter sort of keeps them intact, doesn't he? Hey, Sam, welcome, man.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
We'll bring your parents' name in, Peter and Pam.
Yes.
And you were born 1975.
It seems a long time ago.
Hey, welcome to the WhiteMagic, mate. It's great to have you here.
Pleasure to be here.
I believe the first lady you ever saw was a lady called Alice.
Alice Springs.
Born in Alice Springs?
Correct. Yes, correct. Mum and Dad were school teachers in New South Wales. Got together fairly young and then moved to the NT to further their careers, I suppose, and became school teachers in Alice Springs. And I was born there, 23rd October 1975.
All right, good boy.
And then stayed there for a few years before they moved up to Darwin, where there were some better career opportunities because of post-Cyclone Tracy.
Geez, you are old, eh?
When was Tracy? 1974.
1974, Christmas night, 1974. Yeah. Darwin was devastated. If you've been up to Darwin, and I know you want to get up there, Ash, man.
I need to get up there. My wife won't let me go.
You'll never come back, dude. You'll never come back.
I do like a drink, but
and they do too. But you need to see the Cyclone Tracy exhibit at the Darwin Museum. It's fantastic, and it just it gives you the depth of what actually happened, on that night. Darwin rebuilt for a long time after that, so you can imagine. So 1978 they moved up there. They were still trying to get things going again in Darwin. So I don't have many memories of Alice Springs, to be honest, because I was literally 2.5 when we left. So Darwin was pretty much my whole life. Yeah, growing up. Yep.
And not a bad place to grow up though, Darwin. I reckon it'd be a pretty damn good place.
I think the sister-in-law doesn't even want me up there.
Beautiful, tropical.
It.
It's if you think of a tropical paradise, then Darwin
Fishing's great.
Fishing's great. Multicultural. If you like your food, you can think of any type of food from anywhere in the world. You can get it there. At markets. You've probably heard of the Middle Beach markets, and they've 5 or 6 other different markets there. It's great. It's very relaxed, tropical lifestyle.
Yeah, nice.
Yep.
What about Peter and Pam took you on a trip in 1983? I think you may have done the Europe tour. Did you land in Belgrade, Yugoslavia? Was that first?
Not quite straight off the bat, but yeah, they did. So being school teachers, how do I put this diplomatically? My parents are a bit left of centre. I wouldn't call them hippies, but they're beautiful people that wanted to see their kids see the world at a young age.
Nice.
So they took us out of school. I was in year 3, my sister year 5. Got an older sister, Rebecca, who is a couple of years older than me. And they said, we're going over to Europe for 6 months. We're buying a crappy old comma van. Landed in London. They bought this piece of crap van, and we went touring basically for 6 months straight, all over Europe. Which taught me a great appreciation, I guess, of not only European history, if you want to talk about that as a crucible of society or civilization or whatever from early on, but just the history of the countries around there. And we did get into a couple of hairy situations, which I didn't really know about at the time as an 8-year-old, but when I sort of went to university and learned about European history, I kind of said to Dad, what the fuck were we doing in Sarajevo in 1983 when the place was going to shit,
He wanted you to see the real stuff.
yeah, pretty much, maybe. I don't know, or it was an accident, but there was a checkpoint where we gave away all our traveller's checks just to get out of Yugoslavia, with guards with M16s, with my parents going, well, shit, I've got 2 young kids in the car here, I get out of this country however I can. Like I said, I didn't realise the gravity of the situation at the time, but in hindsight, it was pretty scary. Sure. We saw some brilliant things around Europe, don't get me wrong, some beautiful places.
Europe's an amazing place.
Yeah, some historical stuff that still sits with me today and gave me an appreciation of history in general.
In that 6 months you were away,
was there one thing or a couple of things that stood out for that whole journey? Like,
Yeah, I reckon close to Athens in Greece is the original place of the Olympic Games, like pre-modern Olympic Games, Olympia.
Yep.
And me and my sister got to run up and down the original track of the 100 metres around the ruins where the tourists.
way.
I don't know if the tourists are allowed there now. So we're talking, 1983, quite a while ago. So we got to sprint up and down on the original tracks where the athletes 2,000 years ago got to sprint.
Well, that's sensational.
That's awesome, isn't it?
And that was pretty cool.
What's your sister's name? Sorry, Scott.
Rebecca.
Rebecca.
Yeah.
Rebecca. Might as well include it. There's a Mozzie there. Quick, get your
Mozzies,
sanitary.
they're I haven't got sanitary, but Mozzies.
Go on.
And that would have been back in the day when you actually had two knees that worked.
This is true. Yeah, I won't go into my sporting injuries.
Not quite yet, but we'll
Not
get there
quite yet,
eventually.
or
But that's when
but,
you're actually free and you're actually running
I
around.
was still slow. I was always slow. But I don't know what the 100 was running then, but I was probably a good 15 seconds.
We'll get Pete to Google it right now. What the original 100 was done. I reckon you still might not have got there.
At least you got there within 20 seconds. That's not too
Yeah.
bad. Did you do ACLs on all your knees or both knees? Or one knee?
No, all my ligaments are intact. I just don't have a lot of cartilage left.
So all the meniscus is all
It's
screwed up.
there. My specialist that I saw a few months ago, just to see how things were going, said they were like chutney. I think is the word he
Is
used.
that right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Should be on toast, mate.
So you're basic bone on bone.
Yeah. So it's sort of arthritic already, but it doesn't cause me a lot of problems in sort of the normal day to day. I have to take a few pills to get through a baseball game on a Saturday, which is a small price to pay, I reckon. Yeah.
You'll need the heat pond like DR, mate. You'll need the hot pond to get through it. Like we all do.
I've actually seen Sam on a couple of, like when he used to coach Jordan, and he limps around a fair bit, dude, after a game.
Usually on a Sunday.
Yeah, Sundays.
Depends if I get a hit or not. If
Yeah,
I get
Sunday-
hits, I'm fine.
What about you went to Asia on another trip, 1988?
Yeah. So we had
What
a
was
bit
that
of
one?
had a bit of a travel hiatus back to Darwin, regular life, and then mum and dad thought it was time to go and see a bit more of the world, which was great. So 1988, so I would have been in year 8, and sister in year 10. They took us out of school for 3 months this time.
That's good. I love it.
Yeah. And so we travelled around Southeast Asia essentially, well, mainly China, but Thailand as well, Malaysia. And back then, you can imagine the West didn't have a huge influence on those Asian countries. So, it was a real eye-opener for us to go to China, especially. We travelled around China by rail, where a lot of people in 1988 didn't speak English, were quite, not racist, but afraid of white people.
Because it was still a big communist country back then.
Absolutely, yeah.
Communist country.
And, definitely, the Communist Party still ruled everything, as they do
Still
now.
is today.
Yeah.
But back then in 1983 it was scary.
It was. So if we went to places that were more expensive, we'd get served. We'd get, accommodated. I guess we'd have people talking to us that spoke English. But again, my parents, being my parents, want to see the real experience. There were no Kontiki tours or any of that.
Yeah.
So a vivid memory of walking through a marketplace in Shanghai and seeing tiger paws and donkey's heads and traditional Chinese medicine. And then my dad going, "This is fantastic. I'm taking photos. Look at this." And they're like, "No, you can't do that here. You can't do that here." And seeing a woman like skin live eels and just give them to people, for whatever it was, a kilo.
Street food, street food.
The original street food.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
again, to have that sort of experience as a kid for me was just amazing, invaluable. So
Absolutely phenomenal.
we were in Beijing. I think it might have been, I forget the month, but it was late 1988. And my parents, being school teachers, again mingling with the public, we would go down to Tiananmen Square and talk to the locals. And there were a lot of students that had already, because there's Tiananmen Square, there's Mao Zedong's tomb, there's a Chinese parliament, there's the Forbidden City, and there's a university like fairly close. And a lot of the students with the whole democracy thing pre-Tiananmen Square already starting to assemble. They hadn't started protesting yet, but they wanted to speak to anyone that was foreign, and they kind of befriended us and wanted to see where we were from and what our country was like, and just had conversations with some of these people that potentially could have been killed not only 6 months later when all the crap went down after we left. So again, I said to my dad, what the fuck are we doing in Tiananmen Square 6 months before the shit went in? He's like, "Oh."
I want to see it. I want to see it.
Some Aussie bloke walking through to take a photo.
He said there might be a tank come through here at some stage and some bloke walking in front of it.
But that's the crazy thing. Like, if the government maybe back in the day sees some Aussie bloke walking through taking photos, that could have not gone too well either.
Yeah. And like I said, we were met with a bit of that. I think it was fear more than anything, fear of the unknown, because China was still a very close country in 1988.
Did you get a look at the wall? Did you do the wall? Or did you do part of the wall?
You know, went to the Great Wall. Yeah, to keep the rabbits out and all that. I couldn't see any rabbits, but it was. if you haven't been there, you can see that the wall is in. When you think about the Great Wall, you think about this long continuous thing. There was walls everywhere, like. I don't know what the length of it is, but it goes for thousands and thousands of kilometres, and there were different sections of it all the time. So they've got the touristy areas that you go to.
Because the greatest thing about that is that you can actually see it from space.
You can.
Like, when they take it, anything you can see from space is pretty damn.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. Yeah, it was very, very impressive.
Pete coming in, what was the... I can't read that, Pete. My eyes are really bad. No, Sam couldn't have got that time. No chance.
So it was 9.82.
No. It was in the 13s or something like that. But yeah, Sam wouldn't have got that anyway. But the greatest, like going back to Tiananmen Square, like the greatest photo, probably the top 10 photos in the entire world is that tank with that gentleman standing in front of it and then the blockade behind him. That's just, and you were there 6 months before that all happened.
Goosebumps. Yeah, really.
That's incredible, mate.
Yep.
That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, amazing.
It was a bit of a changing time for the world, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
You know, I'm not sure what the link up with Berlin and all the wall coming down.
I
I'm
think
sure it was all around the
I
same
reckon it's
time.
around the same time.
Definitely. Yeah, 89 was Berlin.
So you got to see some raw shit.
Yeah,
That's good.
And
But there's
go home.
but 6 months before that, his dad's leading 2 kids and a mum through the thing taking photos, mate. That's just amazing.
What was the car that he got over there?
No, we in China we travelled by rail.
Oh,
pretty
rail.
much everything.
Okay,
Yeah,
it was
didn't
the
even
first
have
one. Sorry.
I mean, we didn't travel independently at all. It was all just kind of seat of your pants. Yeah, it was.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
That's raw stuff. That's good. Hey, that's what it's all about.
That's incredible, dude. Like,
Where do you want to go? You want to let's start to trickle through his
Spawner Creek,
sport
because
journey, huh?
I'm going to tell you now, people, that's a lot to go through. But I want to start right back in the beginning. Like, obviously, Alice Springs, Darwin, we just talked about. Before you baseball, did you play other sports? Did you play cricket? Did you play Aussie rules?
Yeah, absolutely. Growing up in Darwin, you try everything, I guess. I don't know the official stats, but up until recently, Darwin, or the Northern Territory in general, pays more money to sport in general per capita of people for their state government than any other state or territory in Australia. Rugby league was my first organised sport.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
I didn't even have that one on there. Yeah.
Dad was a rugby union player from New South Wales. So going back a step, as I said, my parents came from New South Wales. That's where
for sure.
where the Tibbits are from, essentially, and my mum's family, the Blacks, are from.
Time out. Blacks. Oh, not Blacks from the Northern Territory. Sorry, I thought we were going to get into some racist stuff there. Sorry, it's not that.
No. Maiden name is
Say no, man.
maiden name is Black. She was from Wollongong. Dad was from country New South Wales. So,
Ham black. That's all it was.
Ham black, yeah.
Because me and Ashman, we'll take another time out. We were thinking of what your cult, like your background was, and when I heard like Alice Springs, we're thinking that he's got a bit of native in him.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. It's not a funny story because it's an unknown. So, my family, if you look at Zach, my son Zach, blonde hair, ash hair, blue eyes. Jessica, fair, freckles. Rachel, freckles, obviously my wife, not my bloodline. Me and my dad look distinctively Mediterranean.
Yes.
The rest of my family, my uncles, 6'4", blonde hair, blue eyes.
Oh,
Germany.
Two uncles. Somewhere. We've done the bloodline stuff.
Oh, you have? You've traced it?
You know, my sister has, and
I'd love to do it. I really
there's a
would.
bit of Spain in there maybe, but I was kind of questioning, Dad, what was grandpa in the jungles of Papua New Guinea? Was there a milkman in Cootamundra that might have kind of looked a bit woggish, or what's the game? Because me and my dad look quite.
Because it was funny, because I actually didn't know you were from the Northern Territory. So when we said that, we said, "Oh, do we make some jokes and all that sort of stuff?" And I'm like, "No,
We better not.
No link there that I know, Indigenous wise,
Yeah.
but who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
But it looks like it's sort of a Southern European thing.
Yeah.
Maybe Dad and I are a kickback, I don't know. Or maybe there was a milkman.
the milkman came through.
That's funny.
An Italian boy to deliver milk. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so getting back to it, so you played a bit of rugby.
Yeah, so rugby was the first thing. I was crap at it because I was small and slow. Tried rugby union.
So I don't ever see you as small as a kid. I would have thought you'd have been the
He's
beast of a kid.
5'8" like me, mate. He's the same height.
So
you were a small kid growing through?
Yeah, I was a bit of a runt. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Mum's 5'1", Dad's kind of just under 6 foot.
Yeah.
But that blue-eyed, blonde-haired gene is the tall one in the family. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping Zach can carry
Bust
that
through
through
that,
for
yeah.
basketball. But yeah, no, I was quite small. I thought, shit, I'm going to be like Mum here. I'm going to be 5'1" and nothing. So I was 15, 16 till I really grew. And then grew a foot in a year.
Yeah.
So made the 6 foot mark and maybe trickled over a little bit after that. To jump around a bit, that really affected my baseball at the time because I was actually, before I grew, I was already playing A-grade baseball in Darwin as a 15-year-old.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that. That amazed me.
But then when I went for my growth spurt, I couldn't hit anything because my eyes weren't telling my brain what to do.
But going back to your rugby, so you sucked at?
Yeah, I digress.
You sucked at rugby?
Sucked at rugby union, sucked at basketball, sucked at athletics, sucked at cricket because I could hit it a long way, but then just was impatient.
But 2020 back in your day, you would have dominated that stuff.
No, 2020.
Yeah, no, 2020.
So no base, I just found my feet. So I guess how I got to baseball, Dad played for the Nightcliff Tigers in Darwin in 1970.
That was my next question. How did you find the baseball? Yeah, nice.
77, 78 and got me into T-ball. Coming from Alice Springs, he was a rugby union player, but played field hockey as a summer sport, if you will, even though there's no summer it's all summer in Alice Springs.
Yeah.
So that was his other sport, and I don't know if he played any baseball in Alice Springs. I don't think so, but that was where he might have been exposed to it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he through a few friends joined the Nightcliff Baseball Club in Darwin in the late 70s, and they won a flag in 78, I'll say.
Yep.
And I started playing T-ball from probably 4 years old, I guess.
Yeah,
So
nice.
so I started sort of at the same time as the rugby stuff, I guess. But yeah, really enjoyed the baseball stuff more. Worked out at a very young age. I wasn't an aerobically gifted athlete either, and still holds true today. So I just enjoyed hitting stuff rather than people hitting me. I think. Yeah. Being a little kid. Yeah.
Yeah, so you obviously came through the Northern Territory junior system and all that sort of stuff, but apparently some coaches back in those days really made a big influence on your baseball.
Yeah, definitely. So the teams that Dad played for at Nightcliff Tigers, there was a guy called Gary Gemelli. Now, no one will know his name. He played Claxton Shield for the NT way back when, before there was an ABL and all that. So we're talking from probably even early 70s through to early 80s, and he was inspirational, more so even when I look back on what he taught me, because as a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kid, he was my coach probably till I was, 11 or 12, maybe even 13. You don't know at the time what someone's instilling in you, what they're teaching you, and you can listen to them, but in hindsight, I guess, and the values I took into baseball were largely from Gary Gemelli. He taught me how to hustle.
He was a real mentor. Yeah,
He was.
he was a young mentor for you.
Definitely. And
Put
like
you
I
on
said,
the right
hindsight's a wonderful thing, and I didn't know it at the time. But you'll see me yell at the kids, Scott, when I'm saying I don't care if you're the worst kid on the team, you're the best kid on the team. If you don't hustle, you don't have my respect. Baseball's a game about hustle. No matter what you're doing, whether it's defensively, offensively, it's running out to a drill. It's just it's almost like an inherent respect of the game itself that you need to hustle.
But that coach obviously early really instilled that into you. And the great thing is, I'm going to reflect on Jordan a lot, and yeah, Jordan hustles.
He does.
And because of Sam yelling at him a lot, which is great, and which is what kids need these days. And you get some kids like yourself that reacted to that, and you'll get some kids that go, "Nah, bugger that, I don't want to do that." Sort of stuff.
And look, it's a tricky age around Jordan's age with kids in general about what way they want to go, what appeals to them and what doesn't, and that's fine. That's one of the challenges I found coaching kids at that age group, I guess, is I want them all to hustle, and some don't. You can't be too critical on them because you want them to have fun, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I had fun in my junior baseball, which is what got me through. But yeah, looking back to Gary and his influence on me now, fun still involved hustle. You know,
there are some disciplines, aren't there, that just get you through life as well. You know, like you'd probably take it into your work and take it, and that's where we'll go later as well.
Yeah.
But all those solid structures as a kid, you know, pick up your towel. Like I never picked up my towel.
Yeah.
My mum would say every time my wife says, pick up your towel. Right. I could get away with it with my mum. I can't get away with it with my wife. So
Yeah.
eventually, after 8 years of marriage, I picked the towel up for the first time, you know. But there are those early disciplines
But that's what
that will guide you through
Most
your
definitely.
adult life.
Yeah.
Because those structures are put in you early.
And that's what's great, where like you can still think back we'll get to all the rest of the stuff, but you can still remember that one coach that just taught you that the old building blocks. Like every time you put a block up, you just build, and he taught you how to do that, and you respect it and still go. That to me, that's what sport is all about.
and that shows you how important those early coaches are too. I think
Yes.
you know, which is something that's not lost on me when I sort of lose my shit at the kids or or get a bit annoyed. It's
And
like
I can see that, man.
you
Like,
know, I'm influencing young boys here and some girls, you know, and I've got to be careful about how you deliver a message and want them to interpret it the right way.
Damn straight. So, also, you won a flag back in '91 with the Tigers,
Yeah. So that was I was all of 15 years old, and I was kind of
playing senior baseball.
playing senior
baseball.
baseball. Yeah, I was coming off the bench, you know, or I'd fill in, or it's just because I'd been hanging around, and obviously through junior baseball with the Tigers had some success, and through representative NT stuff. Even though we'd get pounded every time we went down south and played the team. South Australia was one of the outfits that no matter what age we went through, were really well drilled, and so that's probably indicative of, I guess, the coaching at state level that goes back even 30 years. So we'd, mum and dad would cough up the money, we'd go down, get billets, and get our ass kicked but it gave us exposure to a high level of baseball, which is a good thing. That probably helped me develop as a young senior baseballer. But I don't know if it's appropriate for this forum, but my nickname at the time was Tampon Tibbits because all I hit were bleeders.
At 15, they called you tampon.
They did, yeah.
that's good.
Because I could make contact, but it wouldn't go far. So, so I had the ability to hit at least Darwin level A grade pitching, at that age. But as I said earlier, the growth spurt came in, and I went from Tampon Tibbits to the K2 King of A grade baseball for my club, where I struck out more than anyone had in the history of the club. I think when I was 17 years old, because. The eyes weren't telling the brain what was going on. So, which was kind of demoralising for me because I'd had some success as a young kid. And I thought, this game's easy. It's all right. Whatever. I got these men throwing at me as long as I don't throw at my head or whatever. I'm like, okay, So that was a bit of a learning experience as well. So but. The A grade premiership was great because they were a great bunch of guys. They were very respectful. I had a younger guy on the team, they took care of me.
Called you tampon Tibbit, but they looked after you.
Uptight, out of sight.
I'll never forget. Dad obviously took me to the club afterwards. We'd won a flag, and there's a bunch of guys getting stuck in. And he's like, "Do I need to stay, or will you be careful?" I said, "No, I'll be careful, Dad. I'll be good." He's like, "All right, I'll come back and get you in a few hours." All right, thanks, Dad. No worries. and I did. I guess.
Did you have a beer at 15 then?
I might have had one or two that night. But it was great. It was a great memory. Just seeing a bunch of men bond like that over a flag. Well, that was my first experience of that at a senior level. I'll never forget it.
And that's very important too, is actually to have that bit of success and to see that and go, man, that's what I want.
Talk, keep going.
I was going to say some exposure to some real hard nuts and real people that put in over that grand final too. We had a guy who in the semi got hit in the hand by a wild pitch. It was probably intentional because he was out cleanup. A guy called Peter Jackson. No relation to this. No relation to this. He said, we're playing the grand final next week. I'm not getting an X-ray. I don't care. And he came out and got 4 hits in the grand final. Went and got an X-ray, and his metacarpal was broken. Yeah. So he played a grand final, got 4 hits, which pretty much won us the GF with a broken hand.
But that's a big lesson too, man. As to say, as a young kid, oh shit, all right.
Yep.
You're part of a team. Let's just pull your socks up and let's go out. Let's toughen them and get it.
Yeah, that's great.
Definitely. Yeah.
What the transition from Alice Spring from Darwin down to Adelaide.
Yep.
who influenced you to come down here?
It was probably my sister. The sister's the smart one of the two of us. So mum and dad, being school teachers, said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I don't know." Well, you're going to go to university. And I'm like, why would I do that? Because if you don't know what you want to do, you're going to get the grades to go to uni, and then you can decide later on.
Sam, I'm going to have a time out. Oh, fuck university. I've never done it. I've worked from the time I started, mate.
I'm sorry,
that's the survey where you put all in the car.
That's the first time out, Ashley.
That is my one and only.
All right. So,
fuck university. I don't believe in it.
all right, let's go back to it.
And I might have done a trade, and that's not the way I went. So,
But you wouldn't have those soft hands then if you did the trade. Very soft hands. Very soft hands.
So, and for me, it was a bit more of an adventure, really. I'm leaving home at 18. Already had my sister down here, achieving very well at university because she's the smart one. And I thought I'll just ride on her coattails. I'll go and live in the other room or whatever. And so education first and foremost was what brought me here. Although I didn't get educated very much, it was more about just getting out of home, really. Yeah. So I came down and did my first semester of university at Flinders University, failed economics straight away. Yeah. Went back to Darwin just for a break because, middle of the year holidays, and per chance, because the standard of A-grade baseball in Darwin, I'll go out on a limb and say was a lot better back then than it is now, unfortunately, just because of different interests and people moving in different directions. And so we used to get a lot of ABL players that would go up to Darwin because you play baseball in Darwin in the winter down here because it pisses down for the rest of the time in Darwin when it's summer here. So. So they used to attract a lot of ABL standard players to Darwin. They'd just get them a job and they'd go on the tropical holiday for 6 months and
way to live, eh?
Exactly. So as luck would have it, Mark Van Pelt was playing for the Nightcliff Tigers, who was attracted there by the coach at the time, Andrew Kendre, who was another mentor of mine growing up. Was a brilliant coach and had some experience playing with the Perth Heat, even though he was a Darwin lad, and had played for Australia as well.
Great franchise, isn't it? Perth Heat.
Yeah. So, I played a few games just filling in A-grade because I was there for the month, and Mark Van Pelt said, are you playing baseball down south? I said, I'm playing winter baseball for Flinders University, where we drink beers on the bench on a Saturday afternoon, and that's it. And he goes, well, when summer rocks around, give this bloke Phil Burgess a call and come down and try out at West Torrens. So that's how
So just a guy just happened to be in Darwin, and you just that's gold.
Pretty much. So I
and you're actually a life member at West Torrens?
No, I'm not a life member.
Oh, aren't you?
No,
I thought you played your 300.
I played 470 something A-grade games at West Torrens. West Torrens is obviously a very locally famous club and a heavy hitters, I would say, in the SABL, but they don't just hand out life memberships willy-nilly.
I thought you'd have one.
No, and I'm not sad for not having one. I won't say I didn't deserve one, but you just I moved away from the club when I moved sort of up this direction of town.
And we'll get to that a bit.
Yeah. So no, I don't hold any ill will at all. I think to hold life membership at any club, you've got to be involved for the long haul sort of thing. And
400 odd games is pretty close.
Oh yeah, but
you got to be tapping on the door there.
Well, maybe, but it is what it is.
So you won a flag with those guys in 91, I think. No. Okay, I'll go back again. When you came down in 95, was it?
Yeah. So my first season of A-grade baseball in Adelaide, I went out and tried out for West Torrens, did their pre-season and the like, and felt really intimidated because half their team was playing in the ABL at the time. So it's 1994, and West Torrens had actually put a submission into the ABL to create a second Adelaide ABL team because basically all of West Torrens A-grade were the Adelaide Giants at the time, or three-quarters of. So back in the day, the ABL, Melbourne had 2 teams, Sydney had 2 teams, Brisbane eventually had 2 teams. And here in Adelaide, they pushed for a second franchise. The ABL knocked it back, I guess, based on numbers and the like, even though at Norwood Oval, they used to get really good crowds out.
Back in the day,
So ananyway, so here's this 18-year-old kid from Darwin just looking around going, what the fuck's going on here? Like, not knowing anything. I was a very raw player. I'd had coaching, but not coaching at this level before, They said, go to Sassy, go and, get coaching from these people. I don't know half of what they were talking about half the time. I'd see a ball and try and hit it sort of thing, or... they put me in shortstop and I'd run around. I didn't even have a backhand, in the infield. So I was pretty raw. Yeah, so luckily I fit in because a lot of the West Torrens players were away with the ABL a lot of the time.
Yeah.
They're on trips, so
And that makes a good opportunity for a young kid to come through.
yeah. So I was able to slot in, and just I was always a catcher, I guess, as well as playing some infield stuff as a junior. Going back before, as a late developer, and the mums and dads used to say, when the fuck is his voice going to break? Because I'm sick of this kid screaming from behind the dish.
And we've had a fair bit of that through our career, like coaching those junior kids there. When the hell is the voice going
It did happen eventually, but anyway, that had happened by the time I got to Adelaide. But I'll never forget my first A-grade game of baseball in Adelaide. There was a guy on the hill called Malcolm Gregg. And I don't know if you know the name, but Malcolm Gregg at the time was a dual Olympian. He played in the 1998 Seoul Olympics, 1992 Barcelona Olympics for Australia as a pitcher. And his main pitch was a slider. He said, all right, Tibbits, number one is a number two and number two is a number one. And I'm like, I'm already shitting myself and going, what? As you did, I think they still do in the ABL, the SABL now. They the first game of the season is the grand finalists replay. They face off. So we're playing Southern Districts. Burke Webber, who was the main West Torrens catcher at the time, was injured with a hammy. So they're like, Tibbits, you're going to catch. Yeah, oh, okay. And I'd done one bullpen with Malcolm before. I don't think I caught one of his sliders, his main pitch.
Yeah.
It moved.
How much did it break? Did it?
He
600 or?
he threw a slider hard. I'm saying for a slider, probably low to mid 80s, and it moved a lot. I'm talking like more than the width of the plate and late.
Yeah.
Hence why he was an Olympian, why he played for Australia.
Yeah.
So I think that day there were probably 8 or 9, 2 to 3 putouts where I had to run to the back net because I'd missed his slider. The guy had struck out and I had to run to the back net to throw it to first base because I couldn't catch it. Southern Districts were all, this kid can't catch, and he was still striking them out, and I'd just run to the back net and throw it to first.
That's fantastic.
Oh, fuck. Oh, again. He's going, who is this kid? What the fuck's going
Kid
on?
can't catch, but he's got a good arm.
Yeah, that's right. As long as I can get to it and throw it out, doesn't matter.
Yeah, so when Bert came back and he wasn't injured anymore, they shuffled me around a few positions, and I still ended up catching a fair bit as a young guy, but was just learning along the way. Yeah.
But got the flag.
Got the flag. All right. Oh, again, another memory I would distinctly remember. I mean, the season is, I don't know, again, God, how long ago is that? Too long to remember. But I'll never forget. So Phil Burgess, who is a West Torrens legend, another one of my mentors locally, he taught me a lot about aggressiveness and how to play the game hard and fair. Was first base. He was towards the end of his career. So he would have been young 40s, 1994. And played first base most of the year. Would consistently hit 400 like across his career. He played. He played close to 700 A grade games of baseball, and played for the Giants back in the day, and all the rest of it. You know, very very long list of achievements. And the final out when we beat Henley and Grange in 1994 in a really close game, I think it was 5-3. First thing he did, I was playing right field, clueless because I'm not an outfielder, but that's the only place they could hide me. He caught the out at first base, did a beeline and sprinted to me at right field. I'm like, holy fuck. And he came up and he hugged me and grabbed my hand and said, welcome to West Torrens after a full season.
Oh, how good.
Gives me chills even thinking about it right now. So,
And that's
see this.
and that's what it's all about, isn't it? Like
It was.
an older guy that you've got the respect for.
Yeah.
Drops everything with his mates and comes and finds a young
Brilliant.
kid.
Brilliant
That's
memory.
sensational.
Yeah.
And also, you might have won Rookie of the Year that year.
I did, yeah. Had a pretty successful year again, even though it was a bit hit and miss. I think I struck out a lot, but I managed to hit 330 odd in A grade and played a few different positions. So yeah, I think having that exposure to playing against men, albeit at a lower level in Darwin, helped me, I guess, move into the SABL.
Yeah, that's a big achievement. Rookie of the Year.
Yeah,
Coming down as a young kid, looking over his shoulder, going, "What the hell's going on?"
Yeah.
That's a great.
It was good.
So then in 95, 99, you made the Giants squad yourself.
Yeah, so I think 95 was the first time I went out. They asked me out to do pre-season training. Again, it was a bit intimidating. At the time I was 20 years old, and
they called that that was the Claxton Shield back in those days.
No, it was still the ABL. So the first phase of the ABL ran from 89 to 99.
Yeah.
You can imagine, the tyranny of distance in Australia, flying teams around for a sport that probably wasn't really well supported. When you got a 25-man roster, it was pretty difficult and hard to attract sponsors to. having said that, when we were at home, we used to get.
I know Oval back
thousands
in
of
the day
people
was
to,
fantastic.
It had that old school baseball feel with the bleachers and stuff, even though it's obviously a footy oval.
And look, we said the same thing to DR. West Beach is going to struggle. It's too far away.
It is, yeah.
Not to be a negative on it either. I don't want to dress West Beach down. It is an action to go down there and play sport, and it's a big hub for sport. It's a bit like going down to Mount Gambier and playing in that hub. I get it.
Yep.
But I'm not sure long term whether it will work down there.
I guess time will tell. I mean, they've built some really good facilities down there, obviously, some good training facilities too, you know, so much that they attract, you know, international teams to train down there as well.
Look, it's a
You've seen
reasonable
it.
ground to play on too. Like we
Surface
played
is
on it.
brilliant, but yeah, you're right. I mean, the distance from town, and I suppose not being central to people who, you know, obviously baseball's a sport that attracts a lot of people playing and spectating all over Adelaide. It's difficult. So
As you said, time will tell. That's the beauty of it.
Yep.
Maybe it will. Hey, I hope it does. I hope it does.
But back to your experience back in '95.
yeah, so I think another funny memory. So I made the team. I made my first away trip. My first ABL game was played at in Perth. It wasn't at Parry Field back then. It was on their showgrounds. So the Perth Heat were a powerhouse in ABL baseball, like all through the
20-year-old kid rocking up.
yeah. And so I had to catch another young kid. Again, I won't forget this because there was me at 20 years old catching a left-hander from Alice Springs called Adrian Burnside, who did not quite make the big leagues, but played in the minor leagues in America for over 10 years. Made AAA with Cincinnati Reds.
Wow.
6'4", 6'5" lefty. Born in Alice Springs, so he was an NT boy.
Yep.
One of my mates growing up. And he got to pitch his first ABL game to me catching.
How cool is that?
yeah.
That is gold.
And we won. We beat the Perth Heat. I
How
think
cool.
it was 2-0.
That's fantastic.
We had guys like Greg Jelks and the like, you know, batting for the Perth Heat. It was unreal. I was nervous as fuck, you know, and like seriously. But
Take me through that, man. Like, as a 20-year-old kid, you're on the big, like, as baseball in this country.
Yeah,
You're on the big stage. 20-year-old, you're catching, as you said, your best mate.
Yeah.
You're down there. That first pitch. How many people in the stands, you reckon?
Just rocking.
Oh, look, it wasn't a huge crowd. Maybe a few thousand. Yeah. Perth had a pretty good following.
So the lights are going.
Yeah.
In Jellens, you're coming out.
I'd like to say I really enjoyed it and, you know, took it all in, but I shit myself too much. Like, I was just like, just do your job, catch him, get it back. He was a lefty who was whippy and tall and threw like 95 miles an hour. So it was more like just catch the ball.
That's cool.
Just catch the ball, call the game. It was more like being a backstop than a catcher. One of the things I found really hard at that level catching as a young guy was being that general in the field that a catcher should be. That's hard.
Did he throw to the glove though?
No, shit, no. He was wild as
He was just going for it.
Nah, he was like, just
You
let it
just had
go.
to defend it.
Who knows where it's going, which was why he had some success, because it was very hard to get comfortable in the batter's box again.
That's right.
He had no idea where it was going.
You call something and the batter's just taking a step that way because he doesn't know where it's going to hit him in the shin.
yeah.
Get Tibbo on another question. I need a piss.
Oh, Ashman's going to go for piss. So, obviously, you didn't feel comfortable at that level for a while.
Not early on, I think. It took a few years until I started to feel comfortable, until I started to be a permanent starter. You have to remember that back in the original ABL, it wasn't quite like the Winter Farm League for major league organisations, but we did have 4 generally affiliated players from the Los Angeles Dodgers that would come in, and they were key position players, one of who was always a catcher.
Yep.
So I was never really able to cement myself as a catcher there at the ABL level, even though I would be the backup guy.
Yeah, but my interest is like, you made that level, but yet you still weren't sure about yourself. You still weren't thinking that you were good enough to play in that league.
Yeah, some of that faded, I think. They would not hide me. They'd put me. My hitting ability, I didn't have any problem with, because my hitting philosophy has always been see it and hit it. Like, try and predict what's coming, but try and be smart about the counts.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, you know, you see me hit, I'll probably swing at a rosin bag if you threw it up at me. If I think I can put a good barrel on it, I'll hit. So offensively, I was confident and didn't have a problem with that and didn't overthink things.
Yeah.
Defensively, I felt a bit out of sorts because they would put me in positions that weren't natural for me. I ran into the fence at Nord one night, almost knocked myself out when a guy had hit a ball that everyone else in the stadium knew was a home run.
You still chased it.
I'm running. So, I never felt comfortable, maybe defensively, I suppose. But I started to develop, offensively, and that's where I had more success, I think.
Because I've got it down here, you actually won an MVP.
At Claxton Shield level, so post ABL, 2004. So ABL's done and dusted. Dave Nielsen took over the rights for the ABL and tried to instill kind of like another international baseball league where he'd invite players in, and it's sort of still developed into the old Claxton Shield where we'd play a tournament in January. So in 2004 I had a really good tournament at the Claxton Shield. Hit really well against some really good level pitching. We didn't quite make the final, but I won the SA MVP at the Claxton Shield.
And that's friggin' sensational, dude. That's absolutely awesome. But going back to your Giants days, man, what's your best memory, dude? Like, you play. I remember going I was playing basketball at the time, and we came out. You guys, the Giants invited us out, so I think they call it like Shark Tank now, but back in those days, I think I was only 17, 18, maybe legal to drink or not, but we were drinking, and they dragged me out onto the ground, and I'm like, what am I out here for? Because I was the young kid in the basketball team, and I had to stick my head on the bat, whirl around, and then go there, and I'm freaking falling all over, and I thought baseball was the greatest thing in the world. You get to drink beers and all that, so it was fantastic. But there would have been at least 2.5, maybe 3,000 people back then.
I remember one night we played in front of 11,000 at Norwood Oval. The place was pretty big. The place was packed, apart from behind the home run fence, everything was packed. Look, there's a few good memories, but I think one of my best was when I caught a game of a guy called John Chandler. So a lot of people will know Chunky from around the league. Very successful local baseballer. Was signed with the San Diego Padres and played at a professional level for quite a while. He was a phenomenal pitcher and still is. He comes down to torment us at Div 4 every now and then. I'm like, fuck Chunky, He's my age, but he's very fit. He's a fireman now. Back in the day in the ABL, he was so much fun to catch. Apart from the fact that I needed more than one hand because he had more than I had to flash. Even no runners on base, I had to flash more than once because he had more than 5 pitches.
He threw hard too.
Threw hard, and that heavy ball. If you heard the term heavy ball, he didn't throw sort of mid to high 90s, but when you caught it, man, you knew you caught it. So he pitched a game, and I think it was against Sydney. I can't recall, but I was catching. And it was a shortened game because it was a double header. So when we had double headers, we used to play 2 sevens. And so I caught the whole game, and he pitched a complete game in 82 pitches, shutout. And I literally everything I called, he just went yep and hit the spot. So as a catching game, it was just about as good as you can get. I think maybe there was 2 safe hits. And I managed to get 4 hits on the night and a home run too. So, so that was probably, I think, in my memory, and because my dad had come down from Darwin because he was a school teacher, so they used to do matric marking at the end of the year. So he was down luckily, and he got to watch me play too that game.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But I want to know the biggest bomb, dude.
Oh, jeez.
Come on, bring it out. The biggest bomb, the longest bomb you hit, and the one you remember. It just felt because
Well, maybe they're right. He's probably not going to know the distance.
No, but the best bomb, like, you know what, like, they could call me tampon for my entire career, dude. But just when you hit it and went, that's out of there, and you knew it's gone.
I've never been one to showboat, and
I call time out on that.
When you hit them, you know they're gone, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And probably not in the ABL. I think probably playing in Japan. I guess I hit
2005. Yeah.
We'll come to that next.
And we were using. So you got to remember, back in the ABL days, like the early ABL, we were still using metal, which was completely wrong.
Ding, ding.
Yeah. The limited opportunities I got to play third base in phase 1 of the ABL, I'd play left field essentially because I was scared.
Coming through hard.
Yeah, you get guys that big hitting. Like literally, it was pretty wrong in my opinion that grown men were using metal bats at that level.
Yep.
So when that all changed, and I started using wood, I think it developed as a hitter. Because I'd still swing at anything that I could reach, but maybe I'm back to the early days of Sam Tibbits, the ones you missed time, didn't get caught by the outfielder, but they'd fall in.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I hit better for average as a result. But in Japan we were using wood, and I remember hitting one out of the stadium at a place called Toyama, and it was a big concrete stadium. And in Japan it was quite interesting because they'd think everyone that wasn't Japanese was a power hitter, which wasn't the case. So, but they'd still pitch everyone backwards. They'd start you with off speed, and if they got behind the count, they were in trouble because you knew probably they were going to come with the fastball. So, yeah, I got to I think it was a 3-1 or 2-0 count, just about fell over swinging, and luckily connected. And I don't watch. I just said I don't watch. I watched. I think that's going a long way, and it actually went out of the stadium. Like, all right, I'll take that one.
All right. So we go to this, like 2003, you actually made the senior Australian squad.
Yeah, I did. So on the back of a really good domestic season, so leading up to Athens, you have to do a whole lot of Oceanic qualifiers. The Australian team has to.
Yep.
And I had a really good A-grade season, and because I'd had the ABL exposure, I guess I was known to a few of the coaches at national level.
Yep.
So I finished hitting 497, I think, in the A-grade season, 2000.
It's a lazy 497.
2003, and they asked me to come to the Australian camp at Blackwood. So the post 2000 Olympics stadium was still there, and so that was used as a training facility. And they knew they had to do the Oceanic run, I guess, of the qualifiers to knock everyone else out. So I got invited to the camp and performed really well over the week, and then made the Australian senior team. Which was a massive thrill.
This is what I ask everybody: like, what is it like when you know you've made it and they give you that Guernsey? Did you have that one little? Because I know I had it. We have that moment when you're on your own. You got that Guernsey, you got the cap, and you go, "Fuck me."
It was pretty cool. Like my career for Australia was very short, but I'll still always hold on to that.
Yeah.
And the best thing was calling Dad to say, "Dad, I've made the team." After being a week in Sydney, and he said, "That's unreal." So yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah. So
I don't care whether you play one game or you play a career and you make Hall of Fame or whatever. But to get that call up and for them to give you I remember sitting in a locker room, putting the Guernsey on and the cap on and tears in my eyes. No one else is there.
Yep.
And I didn't have a extended career for Australia, but it's just that fucking moment where you just look at yourself and go, you made it, dude.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was pretty proud and proud to be able to tell my family that I'd done that. And like I said, even though it was short, that's something they can't take away from you.
No,
you could say,
you
I represented my country at one point in time. So.
Whether it's one game, whether you get on, whatever, you actually got to put that damn cap on and walk out. Did they play the national anthem before the game?
No, so we had to go off to Guam in the middle of the Pacific to beat Guam because they were part of the Oceanic team, which was an experience in itself because Guam, an island in the middle of the Pacific that traditionally is an Air Force base from post-World War II, where we always used to land in case we needed to invade Japan or whatever.
Yeah.
But because they have a bit of an expat American community there, they can actually play baseball pretty good. And they've got kids that will come over to represent Guam that play in the college system in the States. Yeah. So we had our work cut out for us. They weren't terrible. Yeah. Also, Guam is used as a pre-season training camp for a lot of the Japanese professional teams.
Oh.
So the grounds were just smick-ass. I forget what teams go there, but Guam also has the highest population of snakes per capita in the world because they've just not been they've been able to develop. So we'd be on the backfield.
I'd be done. Get me back on the damn plane, man.
We had a local guy there who was talking to the coaches, and we had all these brand new pearls of the Australian team just taking batting practice to get ready for the game, and most of the grounds all had the home run fences and the like, and the back diamond that you'd take BP on didn't, and
get fucked.
The ball went into the grass. I went running off after it. They're like, "What are you doing? No, don't do that!" Because there's snakes everywhere. So we'd have pearls just going long balls, and we just had to leave them all. So,
dude, I'd be sitting on the freaking first baseline. I ain't going chasing nothing out there.
We did what we needed to do. We beat Guam and came back to Australia, and so it was lead up to Athens. And as it was, a lot of the professionals who were committed to their major league franchises came back and filled the Australian team. And unfortunately, I got cut before the game.
Yeah, man. But I'm telling you right now, man, that doesn't matter a lick of shit to me, man. If you get to put on that Guernsey and that cap for, as I said, 1 game, 2 games. But then you got to 2005, you got to play a bit of semi-pro ball in Japan.
Yeah, no, that was an experience too.
This is what I'm really excited about, man.
Fun. Yeah. So in Japan in 2004, there were a series of earthquakes in the main island Honshu, and it devastated a lot of the area, a lot of livelihoods, a lot of teams. So in Japan, you've got their major league organizations, with their teams that they play in their majors. And then they've got something below, which is tournament-based baseball called the Toshitaiko. So the Toshi Taiko starts out every year with almost 3,000 teams that are semi-professional. They call them semi-professional, but the ones that are sponsored by big companies, 3,000 teams across Japan. They play in a tournament-based baseball in different areas of Japan, and then advance basically to the Toshi Taiko is the cup that you play for if you make the big dance. So because this northeast area of Japan got decimated by these earthquakes, the owner of that team in that particular area, who owned a bunch of colleges, contacted the Australian Baseball Federation and said, can we get some players out to help us, because half my team have either they've gone to fix their homes, or they've gone back to help their farms or whatever, because it was quite a rural area. So the difference between him, he owned colleges and so had people he would pay to play baseball. The difference between him and someone like a team like Kobe Steel, or a team that was sponsored by Suzuki, they'd like give, you know, the power plant episode of The Simpsons where Monty, and they have fake jobs, and they really, you're playing baseball, you got a job. The bigger companies were that.
Strawberry Seal.
Yeah. But the smaller companies were like
Strawberry Seal, that's not his name.
Daryl Strawberry.
Darren Strawberry, there you go.
But the smaller companies had like you were semi-professional essentially. It was like pro-am.
Yeah.
So the ABF said, we've got a bunch of guys we can send out. They contacted a few people and said, who would like to come out and play baseball, you know, at that sort of national level. And so I got a call and said, well, I mean, I just met my lovely wife Rachel. We weren't married yet. We didn't have kids. And I'm like, I'm going to go play baseball in Japan for 6 months. She's like, fucking what?
See you later, darling. I'm gone. I'm over there.
So I did, and she supported me to do that. And yeah, it was a great experience. So we went to, we flew over. We had a bunch of Australian guys on the team to make up the numbers as such.
Yeah.
They took us out to the ground, our home ground, in a place called Uenuma. I'm like, why are we here? This ground's fantastic. This is beautiful. Like, you'd see the mountains in the background. The northeast main island Japan is kind of like mountainous. The snow was just melting because it was the start of their summer season. And like, far out, let's have some training. And they're like, no, you can't go on the field. I'm like, oh, whatever. We got off the bus, we're walking out. I walked over past first base, looked over to my left, and there was a crevasse at second base.
No
It was
shit.
like a fucking hole in the ground that just went down. Oh, that's why we're not playing here.
Oh,
So
get stuffed.
it was, so there were a lot of areas that they couldn't use. Like, a lot of the areas were used for rice paddies. And,
Oh, it's a very reactive area.
yeah, massively. So our manager, who we didn't know his name, he was a rich man. We called him Steinbrenner-san.
Steinbrenner.
Steinbrenner-san was very worried because he had a bunch of Australian guys and his guys on his watch. He was responsible for them.
Yeah.
So we would go and play a team, you know, that was, we'd look at Google Maps and go, oh, okay, not a long road trip today. It's only 200 kilometers that way. We'll be in the bus. And he would take us, he would instruct the bus driver to go the longest, safest way where there were no chance of landslides. So we'd have to drive like 6 hours to get to a game like 180 k's away. It's like, you're fucking kidding me. So we developed a game on the bus where and we didn't know the name for bus driver. We just called him Bus Driver San, and he would have to put like strapping tape over the clock, and we would all have bets on how long it was going to take us to get back. Rip the tape off as we came into our accommodation, and like, yeah, whoever was closest won the money.
But it was a good leg. You enjoyed your time over there?
Really did. So we won our first. So basically, again, to go back to Toshi Taiko, you had to win the tournament to advance to the next tournament. You can imagine 3,000 teams.
That's incredible.
Whittled down to 2 over 4 months, I think it was.
Jesus.
Go, mate.
Oh, howdy, mate. Fuck that.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. You are the man.
Thanks, Reece, dog.
Serious, thank you.
Yeah, good on you.
There you go.
He's the only reason we look any good. I'm telling you right now.
Tibbo, keep going,
Keep
mate.
going, Tibbo.
So yeah, we advanced through the Toshi Taiko by winning the first tournament, and then we went off to the second tournament. Now, keeping in mind that there's like half a dozen teams that come into these tournaments, and it's not sudden death, but you have to beat that particular team in a best of 3 to advance, essentially. Now I shouldn't say older, but I was slowing down, so I wasn't catching as much at that stage, and I was playing first base a lot of the time. And I said to one of the Japanese guys on the team, how do I piss people off when they come up to first base? How do I really get on people's nerves if they get a safe hit or get up? What do I do? And he goes, the most offensive thing you can say to a Japanese person is call them a pig, because in Japanese eyes, pigs are disgusting animals.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So he taught me to say, what are you looking at, shit pig, in Japanese?
And that is?
Nani mitten de oxplan. So every time a guy get up to first base,
I think the Yugoslavian come through that one.
I look at him and go, Nani mitten de oxplan. One day I said this to this little guy. He would have been 5'2", and I feared for my life. His eyes rolled back in his head, and I thought he's about to unleash some Bruce Lee on me right here. Like, I didn't do it after that. So.
Did you have a story about a bear?
Yeah, I did. So, where we were staying was that, like I said, the northeast corner of Japan's main island, Honshu, and it was quite mountainous. It was a traditional ski area. So our accommodation was a big ski lodge. And we used to go for, like, on our a day off we had every now and then, we'd go for a bit of a walk around the hills. And we had a guy on our team from Australia called Dan Wilson. He's a local guy. He's from, he played for Glenelg Baseball Club. Fantastic baseballer. At the time, Dan was also studying to become a medical practitioner, a GP. He actually gave up I think it was his 3rd year of internship to come away on this trip to Japan. And Dan was a bit too smart for the rest of us, and he was speaking a lot of Japanese too early on for our liking. And we had our own cooks, essentially, that looked after us. And were, thankfully, even though I like Japanese cuisine, we're cooking a lot of Australian dishes for us.
Nice.
They're cooking schnitties and, just steaks and stuff like that. Steinbrenner-san was looking after us. So Dan got talking to the ladies in the kitchen just to improve his Japanese a bit more. And he'd studied up on a bit of local history and said, I know there's a lot of bears in this area in Japanese. He was talking about kuma, and the Japanese name for bear. And they'd talked to him and said, yeah, lots of kuma here, and gone off on a tangent. He wasn't quite sure what they were talking about. So he thought he was having a conversation. He was having a conversation. But what it turned out to be is that he'd actually requested bear for dinner. Even though
No way.
Kuma for tea.
Yeah,
Is it a brown bear or a black bear? Or?
it's like a small brown
Who
bear.
gives a fuck what it is? You got bear for dinner.
Yeah. So we come back
It's
from
right as long as it's hot.
we come back from a long-winded road trip on Steinbrenner-san's watch, and we got there, and I'd lost the money because we tore the ship off, and I wasn't close. And Dan said, Tibbo, get into the kitchen. You've got to see this. So I'm like,
That wasn't a barrel.
I'll never forget
They were
this.
cutting the shit.
Not on the table. He lifted a pot because the ladies had been boiling away a bear skull, and there's this bear, like this one
Bear
looking at me like this. They were making
It's fucking hot in here.
They were making a soup out of the bear skull, and he goes, come in here. Then there was a full bear hanging up in the freezer because one of the ladies' sons had specially gone out to shoot a bear to cook.
No, get stuff.
So
So-
promoted on this
And
station.
they said, well, they'd gone to all the trouble of preparing us this bear stew, and we sat and we bloody ate it, didn't we?
That's the last question.
Yeah, it wasn't pleasant, but yeah, I've eaten Japanese bear. There you go.
I got nothing, man. I love watching a lot of hunting shows in America where they kill bear and they eat bear and all that sort of stuff. But to a guy that says he's trying to talk about the bears in the wood, to a lady going, dumb Aussie wants bear.
From that
Son
point in time-
goes out there and goes, bang, bear, hang it up, bear skull, bear suit.
Yeah, Dan was banned from speaking to the kitchen staff after that. Straight back to ham and cheese
Oh.
sandwiches.
Yeah, bear.
Well, I'm going to say it right now. That's the best story we've ever had on this podcast, man. The bear suit. That's
Poor
amazing.
bastard in the hot water. He looked up with one eye, didn't he?
Yeah. All right. So we're getting long into it. So I've just got one more thing before we go into the final five, man. Obviously a great career. Obviously done everything in baseball. But apparently you got pissed off one year, had a year off. And you decided to go play cricket.
I did, yeah. When one of our West Torrens greats, Andrew Scott, retired, you've probably heard his name. Most people around South Australia would have. A legend of Australian baseball, Australian baseball. He finished his professional career, his ABL career, coached us at West Torrens. We won a flag in 2006 under his wing. A brilliant year. He decided to hang it up, and I suppose in my mind, because I was a big part of the club at the time, I didn't want someone else to coach from outside the club, and I decided that I would try and coach the A-grade team as a player. So I took over from him.
What age were you then?
Close to 30, I guess.
So still young for like a coach.
Yeah. So Yeah, I was. No, maybe 30, 32. So yeah, and I found it quite difficult, actually, quite challenging, because there were friends and colleagues.
Okay.
Friends and colleagues, you know, that you'd
Yeah.
played alongside with, and now
That'd be
you've
hard.
got to be not the enforcer, but the coach, and say what's got to do. Added to that, look, I'll admit I'm the first person that doesn't have a big baseball technical brain. I play baseball at a simple level and always have. So, you know, in terms of
Did you get the chance to take people with you into that management sort of role?
look, I did, yeah. West Torrens is a very big club and a fairly successful club, you know, across SABL, has a really good structure around it. So yeah, in terms of the committee and assistant coaches, I had a wealth of experience to help me, for sure. So I didn't deal with a lot of the stuff that the committee would do and the assistant coaches would do. I had an excellent support mechanism around me. That wasn't the point. It was probably me not feeling comfortable with being a head coach of an A-grade team, and then also trying to coach people that were my mates as a coach. I found that transition quite difficult.
That'd be very tough.
Yeah, I did. So
Did you get a chance to reflect on that afterwards?
yeah, I did.
What was it? Oh, I'm keen. I'm really interested if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel that maybe I shouldn't have put up my hand, and I should have let someone that was a more experienced coach take the reins. After our 2006 success, we had some cattle fall off, and we didn't have the personnel
players.
as much.
Yeah.
But that's not an excuse that we didn't have success
Sure.
the years I coached at all. So I think in hindsight, maybe I wouldn't have done it. It wasn't the most enjoyable time trying to be a player and a coach as well.
Did you do it just for the year, or did you do it for 2 years?
2 years, yeah. I think it was 2009, no, 8, 9, 9, 10, I think it was.
Did you walk away from it, or did you?
Yeah, no, I did. Yeah, solely of my own volition. I wasn't forced out or anything like that. I decided I wasn't going to do it, and I was going to retire from baseball. I remember we were struggling to make the finals, and I said to the playing group, this is our last game. If we don't win, we're not going to finals. This is it for me. I'm hanging them up, sort of thing. And unfortunately, it was a good game, but we didn't win that game, and that was it.
But player coach as well as you obviously played as well. So it's got to be tough, man. Like I've played for a couple of coaches that try to play and coach and then try to coach their teammates and stuff like that. And it gets really awkward really quick.
It does. It's hard when you got to make calls with your mates if they're not performing
That's
as well,
right.
and
That's
dropping
right.
people or bringing people up.
And you got to look at it as a business too. That it's not personal. It's not about that guy or that guy or that guy. You've got to make the call. And yeah, sure, tough.
Yeah,
Real
making
tough.
that separation as an A-grade coach, I found challenging. And
But it becomes, like you say, it's not personal, but it becomes personal really quick.
Or
when
on
you-
the other side, it becomes
yeah,
personal.
that's what I'm
Come on,
saying.
mate.
Yeah, not from the coach, but it becomes personal real quick.
Let's not get too hung up on this one.
Yep, let's go.
No, I look. We're glad to hear that. That's great, because that's part of the journey as well.
of course.
And everybody learns out of that. What did you do to offset that?
The one
Cricket
in
year.
your spare time?
Yeah,
One
so
cricket year.
amongst the other sports that I mentioned earlier on in our chat tonight, I played cricket as a kid growing up in Darwin and sucked at it because I got out all the time. And, figured you get out, and when I get a chance again, now you're done for the day. Well, don't I get another bat? No. So I decided to, from some workmates, play cricket and always had, and said, why don't you come and just play a season of limited overs cricket?
How many overs?
40-40. So
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah,
Just one weekend, Saturday you bat, then Saturday you...
all in one day. So it took
one
up,
day.
and that's the thing about cricket, even limited overs. So
Okay,
we'd start at
It's the whole day.
Oh, it takes all day.
12, we'd finish at 5, then
That's a long day without a beer rash.
I was probably
Here's the funny thing.
2 hours is enough for me.
I'd get bold and I'm like, can I have a beer? They go, you can't do that here. I'm like, I've got to sit here for 3 hours
3
and watch
hours.
you guys and I
Yeah.
can't even have a beer. No, that's not acceptable.
I'm pretty sure most of the guys I play baseball with could not do that.
So anyway, yeah, I went out to a club called the Glenunga Rams to play
Glenunga.
a season of limited overs cricket and thoroughly enjoyed myself.
So that was all the pressure off from the coaching shit, the baseball crap, and you just went, you know what? I've got a bat in my hand, swing it. If I get out, bugger it.
Well, that's right. I couldn't swing it really well because it was a 4-pound bat or a 64-ounce bat. So twice as heavy as a baseball bat. I looked up online the heaviest bat I could buy, and I found
Was it a grey Nichols or?
No, it was some brand from England because England's been playing 2020 cricket forever, and you get these big heavy bats. So I bought this big heavy bat. I could only really play one shot, and that was a cow corner slog. People had sledged me all the time, say you've got no idea what you're doing about. I loved it. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I don't.
Yeah, don't. So yeah, just put it right there, and I'll go over the band.
Let us know what your average was. What was it?
For the season, it was close on 50, a bit over 50.
Nice work.
I made more ducks than I did centuries.
Another time out. There's not too many people sledging you if you're averaging 50, dude.
It sledged me early on when they realised I had no idea, and I'm like, whatever, mate. Just keep. I used to peel against myself when they'd hit me on the pad and they'd go, "How's that?" I'm like, "How's that then?" Like, but yeah, I didn't really get into the cricket etiquette type thing, so. But I had a lot of fun. Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
And nearly won the.
We played a grand final. Yeah, we played a grand final against Kensington, and unfortunately things didn't go the way they did on the day. I made not a duck, but one of my lowest scores, and we didn't win, but we had a fun season.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't regret it at all. Yeah.
We've got so much more we could talk about with the Sam, and like I've got pages I've got left, but we're going to get to the final 5 now, mate. So best sporting moment, mate.
Best. Oh, geez. I'd probably put it at top 3. I think that first ABL game, catching my mate from the NT. I'll be quick.
Get quick. Oh, as long as the man lets you go through.
That great game where I had a great catching game with John Challoner and my dad got to watch it and being picked for the Australian team.
Yeah, nice. Most embarrassing sporting moment.
This is probably going back a bit, but I was newly playing A grade in Darwin, and I hit my second home run that I'd ever hit in my life as a 15-year-old to put us up, and then I tunnel balled a ball at shortstop to lose the game in the bottom of the ninth because we were playing away. So maybe not embarrassing, but the one that sticks out in my mind as a 15-year-old, 30 years later, and then didn't speak for about 2 days after that.
Oh shit!
So,
if there's a sporting moment you wish you could take back,
oh geez, maybe I reckon the last at bat of my A grade career at West Torrens. So before I went on the hiatus, and I got struck out by a slider, and if I would have got a safe hit, we had a runner on second. So I remember telling you that I said to the boys, if we get through, we're in the finals, I'll keep going. Yeah. So it came down to me, runner on second, 2 out, American import throw-in, struck out to a slider, game over, season over. I'd like to reverse that if I could.
Damn,
Outside low, was it?
Yeah, I swung at it. It wasn't a strike.
Wait.
He knew just not to throw. Don't throw a strike. I'm going to swing at it.
Beanbag and he's swinging it. All right, so
You almost wish he chucked it inside, mate. At least you had a chance to pop it.
So, if you had to bury a body, 2 o'clock in the morning, you had one mate to call, who would it be and why?
Oh, jeez.
Now we're in your country now. Like we're up.
Yeah, so there's a lot of room out in Darwin.
No, I'd want someone that's reliable. Someone that... if you said...
Don't say fucking Dipper.
I wasn't going. I don't worry.
Dipper's not
I said reliable.
Yeah, is it not reliable?
Dipper's unreliable. His parents are beautiful, aren't they?
Oh, look, for the sake of sounding soppy, I would probably say my wife, because she'd do anything
Yeah,
to
there you
help
go.
me.
That's the second one.
There you
That's
go, Rach.
going. Yeah, Rach.
Second
And
to
you
that...
are a good, lovely lady, right?
Second to that, maybe Danon, because
No,
he gets
don't
shit
go
done.
Danon. He can't carry a body. He's small, dude. He
I'd carry it. He'd do the digging.
He'd do the digging.
He'd make sure everything was taken care of.
Him and Pete are the toughest guys on earth.
Yeah, he is. He's a tough
Seriously.
man. All right, last one, final one. Best dodger you've ever played with?
That's Brendan Didlock. I don't even know why you asked that question. Do you ask everyone that question on this
Everyone.
Everyone, and we get down to
He's a gem, isn't he?
thing? Well, you know,
For a guy that's got no knees that has to roll forward to throw.
that's just a no-brainer.
And he's got that throw that just, it's on a string, isn't it? It doesn't matter where.
And his parents, best smelling garden in South Australia, guys. All right, that's been a great.
Seriously, their gardens smell very good.
That's been a great episode, Sam Tibbits. Hey, look, I'm gonna say it right now. I've been looking forward to the man. I've got so much respect for Sam Tibbits. Glad you came. Muchly
Thank
appreciated.
you very much for having me,
Much
gents.
appreciated.
It's been a pleasure.
Sam, thanks, mate. What a fucking blast! Like, what's such a good guy, and hey, our first Northern Territorian.
Glad I could represent.
Hey, what a
Territorian.
What a fantastic interview.
And
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry I've left so much behind, and maybe we're going to bring the first ever guest back twice.
Well, if your phone doesn't break down as
Yeah,
often,
it was my phone. We had IT problems, but it was fucking his phone. But we got the big fella next week. The fortnight. The big Greg.
Yeah,
The military?
We have the military.
The military we got coming
Military.
in. So, hey, look, love your support, guys. We love everything you guys do. If you got any suggestions, whack it onto the page. But, hey, Sam Tibbits, muchly appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sabo. And Greg, we're going to put the vest on for you, mate.
That's going to be a big one. Watch what the uniform he wears next week, guys.
Let's bring on August. See you,
Thanks,
mate.
guys.